Welcome to the Bearing It All podcast, where we dive deep into the backstories of celebrities, CEOs, and multi-million and billion-dollar entrepreneurs. There are no rules as we aspire to inspire by sharing real experiences, triumphant comebacks, and what the road to success really looks like. It's all about the grit behind the glamour. Welcome to the Bearing It All podcast, where we talk about the grit behind the glamour. And today I'm so excited because I'm interviewing, just keep going, Jordan Cornette, who has been a friend of mine for several years. He is now an ESPN personality and analyst. He runs a radio show with his gorgeous, stunning wife every Sunday. He's got an amazing story, and where he is today, man, what a journey. You are such an inspiration. I'm so grateful you're here. How are you, Jordan?
Well, it's a blessing and it's a shame. It's a blessing I get to talk to you right now, Barbara, but it's a shame we haven't seen each other in person in so long. I miss my friend. If this is the avenue in which we got to do it, I'm okay with it because it's good to be connected again.
Our paths are going to cross again in person, no question about it. And I've got to meet your wife and your beautiful children, and you got one on the way. So a lot has happened since we last. So Jordan and I connected at the Jam, which was a show. Is that still on the air?
It is not. Once I left, I just burned the thing down and left its ashes behind me.
Scorched
in all
earth.
seriousness, though, yes, it ended about a year after I had left. So everybody has landed on their feet elsewhere, but the Jam is no longer in Chicago.
Oh, that's too bad. But it was such a great experience, and where I really was so grateful our paths crossed there, but I knew you were headed in another direction. Like, I think it was where you kind of just got your sea legs underneath you. Am I correct? I mean, you were working. What time did you have to get up at the Jam?
Oh, I was waking up at about 3:45 a.m. and I was getting in. Luckily, I was close enough to the studios. So a guy who has no hair on his head doesn't take very long to get ready. So that part was nice. But I was in there in the studio about 4:15. Meeting and preparing for a 6 a.m. show that ran from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and you were working hard. And what I love about seeing where you are today on ESPN I turned on the TV one day and there you were on. I didn't turn on the TV. That was a lie. My kids were watching ESPN and I was like, oh my God, I know that guy. And I think I texted you or I sent you a DM. I was like, oh my God, you're in my living room, because when you were in Chicago, I didn't really see it. So that's always so exciting when you see somebody just really putting it all out there. And I know, the Jam was really just a starting ground. So this is where you were supposed to be, but you had to start at the Jam, right, to get to ESPN. And I think, that's why I launched this podcast, is sharing people's backstory, not just seeing the glamour, like, oh my God, wow, lucky him. He's on ESPN and he's, networking with all these fabulous sports celebrities, and you're living your dream right now, right? Am I correct?
Oh, no question, Barbara. But like you said, it's not just, you pop up one day and you're on ESPN. I mean, like I said, that wasn't my only job working at the Jam, and the other jobs were great as well, but it was a lot of work. I mean, I was also going right after the show at 8 a.m. on TV. I was jumping in a car and I was heading over to ESPN's radio studios there, and I was doing local radio in Chicago from 10 to noon. So I'd literally 9 to noon, 3 hours of radio. So I'd get there 15 minutes before our radio show started, and I worked with the great David Kaplan, one of the voices of Chicago sports, and I did that for 3 hours every day. So I was churning out 5 hours of content, 2 on TV, 3 hours on radio, 5 days a week. And I'd come home and I could barely keep my eyes open, trying to be at that point a good boyfriend/fiance, and also take care of my oldest. So I was juggling a lot of balls, and it was exhausting. I didn't have a social life. It was all about work, but I knew it was for a greater cause. And I knew if I kept on keeping my head down and grinding and fashioning myself as not the poor man's Michael Strahan, but the homeless man's Michael Strahan, that eventually the bigger dogs would come calling. And I was lucky enough where ESPN noticed this guy with a unique set of skills that not only could talk about sports, but could do pop culture, could do politics, could do lifestyle. And that kind of personality, if you will, drew me to the big dogs. And here I am. I was very blessed, but put forth a lot of work, as you know, Barbara.
Yeah, and that's what I love talking about is that I got to see you because I knew the jam started at 6 a.m. So I knew you had to wake
Mhm.
up at some ungodly hour and you always showed up, in it to win it, no matter what. Like I would come in and talk about stuffed monkey dolls or, drinks or whatever. And you got interested. You were like in it. And I think there's just,
Yeah.
even though you were doing that to get somewhere else. Like I knew it was a stepping stone. You poured yourself into it. Like you didn't just check a box. You weren't mailing it. And you were like, if I'm going to be this anchor at the Jam in Chicago, I'm going to be the best damn anchor. And I really admired that about you. I was like, I don't know that he really has an interest in my stuffed monkey dolls today, but
Well, no, you know what it honestly was? It was a couple of things, Barbara. It was one, I treated it like it was GMA. Like I treated it like this is Good Morning America. I'm doing a show that the world is watching. And there was not nearly the numbers watching it. But again, if that's the contract I signed, that's the career I'm pursuing. Everything I do is the Super Bowl. Everything I do is the World Series. Everything is the NBA Finals. Everything is 60 Minutes. And that's how I treated it. But you're selling yourself short because I saw a lot of myself in you. I mean, you're obviously a lot more attractive, but the personality, the spirit, the energy, that's infectious. And that's how I would always try to be with everything I do. I got into this business because I enjoy people. I enjoy the connectivity of people from different walks of life, people with different stories. Yours is obviously amazing, as your viewers know, your listeners know. And so to me, this woman walks in, I was like, she gets it. She's fun. She's good TV. Those are the days that make it really easy. And that's what I pursued this career for, to seek out people like that and look at the friendship we've been able to build. That's what I love. And so to me, whatever the hell you were talking about that day, it was fun because the vibes were there of just good people and good spirits.
yeah, and it was a great studio. I will say, like, even though it was just,
Yeah.
we're all just kind of paying our dues in broadcasting and media. I thought it was great energy in that studio. So
Yeah.
what made you go into broadcasting?
It's really funny. I can tell this story pretty quickly. Well, for one, when I was younger, I would always watch sporting events, but as much as people would watch the athletes, I'd be listening to the broadcasters like a Bob Costas and really was fascinated by the words and just the command of the English language, the vernacular, all those things. Linguistics were always interesting to me, and at a very young age. And so I remember sitting in a couple things happened. I remember sitting with my teammates at Notre Dame watching a game one time, and I said something like, "Wow, did you see how that ball careened off the rim?" And one of the guys looked at me and was like, "Who the hell says careened watching a game?" Like I would just use these descriptive words as if I was doing it. The guys were like, "Man, you're gonna be calling these games one day." So that was one tell. And then the other one, which is a little bit more humorous, I was playing at Notre Dame during that same time, and we played Syracuse at home, who went on to win the national championship. Carmelo Anthony was on those teams. Carmelo Anthony kicked our tail in the game, and I was one guarding him. So the next morning, I get a call from the coach, our head coach's assistant, office assistant, and she's like, "Hey, we need you to come in. Coach would like to meet with you." And I'm thinking, well, I didn't go out last night. I didn't get in any trouble. I know we lost the game, but it was to Syracuse. They're the best team in the country. And I played my tail off. They were just better. So I get called in, and my coach says, "Jordan, I want you to sit down." He's like, "You're not in trouble, but I just got a few questions for you." He's like, and he pulls out the newspaper. And for your young viewers, the newspaper is something that is on paper, that is thrown into your driveway every day. There's something like a newspaper that does still exist. And he pulls it out in front of me and he goes, "Hey, Jordan, if you could play the game as well as you give these damn quotes, you'd be the best player in the country." And so I think my coach was trying to motivate me, but I left the office thinking, I really am pretty good at talking about this stuff. Maybe that's my career path. So I think it backfired on my coach trying to motivate me. And basically, there's just so many tells leading towards this is what you're meant to do. And so I was always fascinated by it, and it always came really easy to me.
I love that story. And
Yeah.
I read that you turned down the NBA. What happened there? Because you could have gone to the NBA, but you went into talk to me about that.
Well, it wasn't so much the NBA. It was a professional career and one that could have been, I could have chased wealth and played overseas at a high level. When you play at Notre Dame and start for 3.5 years, there's opportunities to make good money and see the world. I didn't think I was good enough to make it to the NBA. I played against the greats, and I realized, hey, I can't get to that level, although I could have maybe trained and tried. An injury prevented me from really trying to pursue that, but I didn't think that was in the cards for me. What was possible It was maybe going to France, maybe going to Greece, maybe going to China, maybe playing in one of these other countries and making good money. But again, I was just drawn to the other side of the business, and that being the people who cover the games, the people who tell the stories. And I said, my body has gone through enough. I'm tired of being, mentally judged by wins and losses and shooting percentage and how many rebounds did you get? How many shots did you block? I said, I kind of want to pursue a different path. It's time for a new challenge. The ability to play the sport opened these doors for me to now take advantage. And people talk about, I won't go off on too much of a tangent, but people talk about athletes being paid, and they are now in this new world, and how athletes are being, compromised, and people are milking the athletes for everything in college. But we have an opportunity to kind of milk the university too. And so when I got to Notre Dame, I explored all these different paths and avenues to get me in the best spot to chase my career. And that's what it's about too. It's a mutual taking from each side. And so I was put in front of all these really fascinating and interesting people, did some networking, and kind of got fast tracked. And that was all because of my athletic ability. So it brought me to a place where I felt like, let's try something new. And I think I made the right choice looking back.
And tell me something, because this is fascinating to me, because you must have had support maybe from your family, or because making that decision, some people might be like, why would you not want to be a celebrity athlete, even, in Europe? Why would you turn that down to, you have to start off at the Jam, and, I'm not disparaging the Jam, but you had to start out in a local, small station in the morning. That is, in some people's minds, a step in the wrong direction. I mean, in my mind, it's the step to, step back to go 8 steps forward.
Yeah.
Who was your support? Tell me about that.
Well, it's so funny, Barbara, because you mentioned my parents, and I've got 2 great parents, still married. I grew up in a 2-parent household. I'm very lucky in that regard. Not saying it's the only way to success, but it makes it a lot easier when you have the male role model and the female role model in the house. I know plenty that have been able to do it without, and have gone on to be very successful. I was lucky in the regard of having both there. Neither of them supported me in this decision. So that's why I chuckled when you said that, because you're still very talented. Your body is still intact. Go play. Chase this dream until it tells you you can't chase it anymore. My mom, much of the same. And my parents were as supportive as they get. I never went without. When I had my driver's license, I had a car, a beat down car, but a car to drive. I never went to sleep hungry. And I know a million of those stories having played sports. I was never one of those. So I had very supporting, loving, present parents, but they didn't want me to do that. And I think that's also, a good lesson in life is I went through college. I was 22 years old at that point. One of the best things my parents told me too was, hey, we gave you all we could. You went to one of the best private high schools in the country, St. Xavier in Cincinnati, all boys school, great athletics, great academics. We've done our part. Once you go off to college and you graduate, you ain't allowed to live back here. You're not even allowed to come back and live in Cincinnati. Go see the world, go chase, go fly free. And so it was interesting because in the same vein, they're like, go play basketball. No, I was 22 years old. I was able to make my own decisions. I knew better than anybody what was best for me at that point. At 18, my parents could tell me. At 19, because I'm still asking them for money, they could tell me. At 15, I lived under their roof. They could certainly tell me. At 22, Barbara, I knew what I wanted to do, and I had to go out there and roll the dice. I mean, it was a big risk because, like you said, basketball was guaranteed. Nothing outside of that was, but looking back on it, I'm happy I had the courage and the belief in self to say, go chase this thing, you can do it.
What I'm hearing, and that I love hearing, is that you were actually playing the long game, in that you saw yourself in the, you saw yourself you had to see yourself on ESPN. You're like, that's the track that I want to be on. I want to talk sports. I want to watch sports. I want to network, and that takes a lot of courage, because I'm sure it was pretty, I think we get bedazzled by the sparkly thing that's right in front of us. That was pretty sparkly. Going to Europe, being a celebrity athlete, that could have been pretty cool. I'd love to know, first of all, 2 things. For Father's Day, Mother's Day, I want to interview your parents. I am obsessed with how they've raised 3 amazing men, and I want to talk about your older brother and your work in the Heart Foundation. And what was the other thing? This is where my chemo brain kicks in. My God, I had 2 thoughts and one only made the cut here. But the other thing, let me see if it'll come back into my brain. but you had the other thing is you had a lot of conviction in where you were going, and I think that's so I think that's something that imparting to that next generation, like, don't get caught with that smiley object, the shiny object that's right in front of you. Play the long game. Where do you want to go? And then take the next right steps to go in that direction. And not everybody, even the people that have your best interest, don't always know what's best for you. And you have to have that courage to kind of forge your own path. So I totally applaud you, because where you are today is where I believe a lot of athletes would like to go, but they fall short because it takes a lot of persistence. And I'm sure, did you ever get discouraged,
Well,
between
Barbara, that's
Notre
just
Dame
it.
and ESPN?
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, you nailed it. Is a lot of athletes are afraid of it because we've had God-given ability that's led us to chase a career that came easy to us. And when it stopped coming easy to us, it's still what we knew, so we could forge through. I mean, athletically, we are gifted, and there's a competitive side that comes with that. So we're not going to give up on that. And then when we're told it's time to stop, whether it be injury, a higher power telling us, or we just no longer are interested in it, there's almost an expectation from a lot of athletes, okay, where's the next red carpet to be rolled out for us? Because athletics has rolled out a red carpet for us. Our ability to wow people with our physical skill has opened some doors for us where maybe the person standing next to us who can't put a ball in a basket, who can't run a 40 at 4.3, or who can't lift 400 pounds, has the same opportunity. So now that I'm done, what's going to be given to me next? Mm-hmm. That's not how it works in a corporate world. And I've seen that so many times from guys who, look, I'm still young. 39 is still very young. But you're kind of in that territory where can you really teach an old dog new tricks, albeit young, but you've kind of become accustomed to how life works for you. I, at 22, chose a different career. I was young enough to be ignorant for a little bit and to grow into understanding what it takes to be successful. You get athletes now that are coming out of their career 33, 35, 37, 40, that have an expectation that's just not realistic. And so they're expecting, I'm going to step into a C-suite gig, or I'm going to step into, being on air at ESPN right away. Oh, wait, you got to put in work, but I'm such and such. I played in front of tens of thousands. And I was lucky enough to shed that at 22. Because I can think back, Barbara, when I was just a production assistant, logging tape at the Weather Channel or American Justice for Bill Curtis shows. And I thought I was so slick when I'd be able to call off on a Friday and act like I was sick, and I'd have the day off because I didn't know what it took to work. So I thought I was winning by having the day to go chase women on a Friday afternoon in Chicago, when really the only person that was winning was a person next to me who was there working hard. And so I was able to shed that at 23 and realize, Jordan, you're losing if you think this is the way. You have to put your head down, grind, and act like this is the backup point guard or this is the starting point guard that you're trying to beat on the roster. That's how I needed to be thinking. And once that took off, my career took off. And you add 17, 18 years onto that for some athletes, and it's hard for them to process that part. So I'm blessed in that I decided to change the athlete, shed the athlete tag, and chase the corporate thing so early on. And a lot of people don't have that luxury.
Well, you made the decision. You decided to shelf your ego and go start at ground zero, start at zero and be like, all right, I've got to pay my dues. And that takes a lot of humility and also a lot of confidence that I'm doing this to get to that. And I find that incredibly impressive. And I want to say this, and then I want to talk about your family. I believe for you that your next is your best. Like, I get chills thinking about it. I'm like, what we're about ready to see of Jordan Cornette in the next decade is going to be unparalleled to what you've done over the last 2 decades. Your 20s, your 30s. I mean, your 40s are going to literally be like, because it's just this encapsulation of, right? I mean, that's what I see, and as I'm a little older, I'm a decade older, at your 40s, and it just gets better exponentially, especially when you have the right mindset of, if I just apply this humble mentality of like, if I want to learn something and do something, I just have to learn it. I just have to have the humility and put the ego aside to ultimately do it. So, I mean, I think anything you put your mind to, call me, I'll make an investment behind.
I was about to say, I got to make you my agent. I thought I had a good agent, but you make me feel like I can walk on water. I love this.
I can say what's so cool is that I'll be able to say I knew you when. I can say I knew you at the jam. I'm like, oh no, we were, and our pictures are so funny. We look so,
Right? Well, I
and
was
I was in like
honestly
my
just
highest
happy to
heels.
be there. I was honestly just
Hmm.
happy to be there. And so, like, you talk about this, like, youthful, energetic approach every day. That's what it was for me. Like, I still have moments, and Barbara, I know you do too, when you pop up on these big shows for your segments. Like, I can't believe I'm really doing this. And, like, I hope that for everybody in their career, and not everybody's lucky enough to chase a true passion. But like we're very blessed in that regard. Like I get to do something I love, even when the days are long and somewhat painstaking. I pull back and kind of look at the whole view of it. I'm like, wow, pretty lucky.
Yeah, we're in the arena. I think that's what we get access to. I was like, I'm in the game. I might not be,
Mhm.
winning every play, but I'm in the game and
Yes.
I'm enjoying it. So that's probably where we have that kinship of like, we're just
Yeah.
moving the feet forward, and this is part of being in the arena. And it's not the critic who count; it's the man in the arena, and that's what you're doing, I'm doing, so many people. And I think, the impetus for this podcast was to encourage people to get in the arena and understand it is not supposed to be pretty, and it's not supposed to be glamorous, and it requires a 3:45 in the morning wake up call at times, and
Mhm.
that's not luck. That's a decision. Like you decided, you know what? I'm gonna pay my dues. I'm gonna wake up and I'm
Yeah. I remember vividly when we were in that Chicago studio for that morning show, The Jam, and I marvel at like how energetic you were so early in the morning because that's usually me superior in that category to everybody else because I would always be so juiced up, and people would marvel at that. And I remember saying to you like, "Wow, like you've got even more juice in the morning than I do. Where does that come from?" And I vividly remember you saying like, hey man, I beat cancer. Like I wasn't even supposed to be here. Like, and once I got my new lease, like I'm doing it my way. I'm gonna attack every day like it's my best and maybe my last, and I'm gonna go out there and live my life. And I was like, damn, this chick is cool. And so like that's where I think we connected was, you almost lost your own life, beat it with your strength, and are now even back and better than ever. And in that time, I was still dealing somewhat fresh with the loss of my brother and trying to see how I could be my best version of myself after that tragic actual loss. And I think we connected on that part too. But I remember you saying that, and that was very powerful, and it stuck with me some 5 years later.
Yeah, no, and I so appreciate, and I want to talk about your brother Joel. Yeah, he was your older brother, right?
Hmm.
And it's probably because I think we've both taken these traumas and these tragedies to amplify our love of life and our appreciation of how can we be more grateful and be more connected to this experience, because it's not I wasn't, I mean, I could say I wasn't supposed to survive. The fact that I had that cancer caught is a miracle. And then the fact that I
Yeah.
got to the other side of it, miracle. So I was like, if I get to the other side of this, I am going so big. Like I was like, I would rather
Yeah.
fail trying
That's
than
what you
ever
said.
fail to
Yeah.
try. Right. Like, and it's
Yeah.
like this, like, holy shit, I'm on the jam, like, oh, like I just think it's like, I would just rather be in the arena, like making an ass out of myself. Cause I was always like, I don't even know. Never did television. I'm like, you want me to talk about how to mix a drink, I'll talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And it is so thanks for recognizing that. And it is a different, like, it's a tragedy, but it does move you to like, okay, I'm living at the highest, best expression of myself at all times. And when I am not doing that, I want to course correct. Tell me about your brother. Let's talk about him and what happened and how that's affected you.
Well, my brother was my role model. And, your parents are obviously your initial role model, but my brother was only a year and a half older than me. So everything he
Mm,
did, I wanted to attempt to do, and I wanted to do even better than him. I mean, he was the litmus test. I mean, he was the bar. It was the standard setting everything in life for me. We grew up on a cul-de-sac in a very solidly middle-class neighborhood. A bunch of kids our age running around. It was like if anybody'd seen the movie The Sandlot back in the day, those were our summers. Pick up baseball games, capture the flag, cops and robbers, whatever you call it. We did all those things. My brother was a leader of the pack of some 15 to 18 young kids running around. So he was our leader, but he was a leader of the Cornette little tribe of five. I was the middle of three boys. I mentioned my parents' influence in our lives, but most of my parents were working, successful in their own right in their careers. So my brother was our babysitter in the summers, at like 10 years old. I mean, he was the guy. So as he grew up, I grew up alongside him. I'd want to hang out with his friends. I'd want to talk to the girls he was talking to, and he'd shoo me away like older brothers, like, go be, with your friends. You're not with me yet. And so that was our childhood. And then as he got older, we really grew a bond. I mean, both of us playing college athletics. He was at Butler University and became one of the best basketball players at Butler. I was at Notre Dame chasing my career. We both were lucky enough to go to the Sweet 16 at the same time.
No
and
way.
ESPN actually, yeah, it was really cool. ESPN actually covered both my father and my mother because they were traveling to watch us both play with my dad on the same day. So it was my birthday. We're playing Arizona in Anaheim in the Sweet 16, and my brother's getting set to play Oklahoma in Albany, New York. So my dad actually took a flight to go see us at Notre Dame and then got on a plane and got there to watch my brother play that evening. And ESPN chronicled the whole thing. My father was the head of human resources at the Fed in Cincinnati in their branch, and he still talks about the day he returned back to work on the Monday, and everyone at the Fed was lined up giving him a round of applause. And he said it was one of the coolest days of his life. So me and my brother shared in those moments. I mean, we very much understood each other and could see each other because we had the same path. And so when I moved to Chicago out of college, he played professionally overseas for a little while. I stopped playing and then moved to Chicago, and we were hanging out all the time. So what became my big brother, the guy I looked up to, became my best friend for a couple of years in Chicago. I'm very happy I had a chance to meet my then girlfriend, Shay, who became my wife. And I remember he was never like this with any girl I was ever with, but he was like, treat this one well, man. Like, make sure you take care of her. And I was like, who the hell is he? Like, he's never liked the girl I've talked to. Mm-hmm. He's never been like this, but he could just see it. And that's who he was. And when I think about the person he was, Barbara, and I could go long here, so I'll try to shorten this part, but he had such an infectious laugh. Like, his laugh was so iconic. It's what everybody still talks about. He loved life. He loved to laugh. He loved to invest in people. He loved the underdog story. He was a champion for the person that was the introvert or maybe had gone through things in life. He was just so much about inclusion and making sure everybody was involved or having fun. And he was so passionate. And everything he did was with a purpose. And like, it drive you crazy at some points, but it was one of those things that, again, you looked at and you marveled and go, wow, that's how I need to be. When you lose that, so many things I lost. I lost my best friend. I lost, the standard set for me. I lost a confidant. I lost a guy who lived the same life as me for so long that all these memories I could draw upon, I no longer could because he was no longer there. And so I really had to pick myself up off the mat. And then you think about my parents losing their firstborn. We just lost so much. And the dynamic of our life changed. How old was he? Forever.
And I want to share he was 35. And I want to share his passing because I think there's a lot of lessons that you can share about how he died and measures. Because I know you've started a foundation in his honor so that other people can know the signs. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so essentially he went to sleep one night and never woke up. He had a massive cardiac event at 35 years old. So like I said, we were having to pick ourselves up off the mat. And look, life brings challenges. Everybody goes through loss to some degree. It's going to happen in your life. Hopefully it doesn't happen that close to you as it being a sibling that early in their journey of life. But
35, was there a genetic component? Were there any markers? Is there anything were there
nothing?
Any,
never
signs?
Did a drug, never
like
smoked a cigarette.
Athlete.
Yeah, was an athlete in decent shape, drank occasionally, nothing crazy. There's no telltale sign. And so we had to pick ourselves up after a while and say, what are we going to do? Because that's who he was. He was resilient. He was like, hey, there's no time to sulk and do all these things. You had that stage. How are we going to go get it now? How are we going to be passionate about something? And to my mother's credit, who is an absolute bulldog, she's a boss in her own right, works in a male-dominated industry in advertising. and marketing, excuse me, and has been a boss on that side for a long time. My father too. So very strong personalities. And like, let's start a foundation. Let's try to work towards understanding the heart better. Let's also have an underdog component. Let's also put young underprivileged kids through high school at the institution at St. Xavier that we were financially blessed and able to put you guys through. Let's give people that opportunity. So our first order of business was start the foundation. We put a young man, Lavelle Trimble, through 4 years on scholarship of high school at St. Xavier. He's now a freshman at the University of Alabama on partial scholarship, which is amazing to see that come to fruition.
Awesome.
And now the foundation has grown to the point, Barbara, where our annual golf outing, Charles Barkley flew into Cincinnati and was the MC this year. We had Brad Stevens, the president of the Celtics, there. Jay Williams of ESPN was there. So many cool sports personalities, which we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we've given over $500,000 to Duke University for a medical grant to study the heart. Their lead cardiologist, Manesh Patel, is doing great things to better understand the heart in athletes, to preventing another Joey, my older brother. And so we're doing things that we can feel good about, saying, hey, we lost, but we don't want people to sit in our shoes for too much longer. We want to understand this heart better, to find some cures, to prevent these random heart attacks, to prevent the most important organ in our body from timing out on us. So I think my brother looking down on us will be very proud of what we're doing here. And the culmination of it all this past summer at the golf outing, I was highly emotional because I couldn't believe all that we've achieved in such a short time, starting the foundation 5 years ago.
And he, to his name is still alive and well, and a representative of who he was. And I just feel for your parent. I can't. This story is tough for me. I'm a mother, and my boys are like you and your brother. My boys are 22 months apart, and thick as thieves. So this really speaks to me. So what you're doing is incredible, and keeps his story, his memory, his legacy alive. When is that golf outing? Because I'm coming next year. I'll wear a cute outfit, but I don't know how to golf.
Yeah, we got to get you down there for it, Barbara. I'll tell you, it'll be great. Shay would love to hang with you too. It's a lot of great people, and it's at a great golf course. This past year was at Coldstream Country Club in Cincinnati. We usually do it at the back end of July or early August. I'm looping you in. Get that golf outfit together, girl. Let's do it.
I'll look good, but I don't play good. I do charity golf things, and I have like the cutest outfit, and then I go to swing, and everyone's like, "What a bait and switch!" It's like me in a tennis outfit. Listen. I will look the part, but I cannot play the part.
We'll give you a couple sprints or some alcohol in a golf cart. You can just roll around.
And it's all about it's all about the Instagram picture. So let's be honest. Get that going. And I love what you're doing with giving back and supporting the school that gave you such a great foundation, because that can change the trajectory of somebody's life. So I absolutely love that. How can people support the foundation? What's the website? What's your website?
TheJoelCornetteFoundation.org. TheJoelCornetteFoundation.org. The site is probably going to go through a makeover here because we've grown so much, but there's a donate link there. We need to update some of the stuff on there because of the cool stuff we've done in just the past year. But there's a donate link there. There's some merch you can buy. The JCF hat is really cool. You might see those in an airport or on a golf course. A lot of people have taken a liking to those, and it's just a way to spread the word on who my brother was, because his story is as important as the work we're doing. I want people to always remember my brother, because I hear this so much, Barbara, in my travels, is people randomly will stop me who knew my brother and I don't know them and just want to tell me a story. Somebody said this the other day to me, which was powerful. They're like, I could spend my whole life, I could live till I'm 95, this person was saying, and a great person, and said, I don't know if I could touch as many people as your brother did in 35 years. And so I'm not the most religious. I become a very spiritual person. And I just feel like he did enough in his 35 years. So they're like, hey, you can take a break. I mean, he really did. It's incredible the amount of people he touched in 35 years. I'm 39. I ain't done half the shit that he has done. He was a very special person. And so I want his story to be known. I want his legacy to live on. And I want to do what he did, touch a lot of people, leave a place better than it was before he entered that space. And that's what we're trying to do.
And you're doing that. I mean, you're growing his legacy exponentially, and this has just begun for you. I'm telling you, the next decade of Jordan and Shay, both of you guys are going to impact so many people. I really
I love it.
feel you both actually collectively have incredible stories and energy. And yeah, I will be at that golf outing. And like I said, my
Come
son
on.
is now my son's at school in Ohio now. Go figure.
That's
And when we
perfect.
landed there, it's crazy, right? And we fly into
Yeah.
Cincinnati. And what's crazy, I said to him as I'm dropping him off, I'm like, how did we end up in Ohio? I don't even know how we're here. But you know what? Jordan? I think it's just all a culmination of the universe conspiring in our favor to bring value, impact, leave a legacy, and we are meant to cross in Ohio. Not so
Isn't
much
that
Chicago or
crazy?
New York, but it's crazy. All roads lead back to
Cincinnati,
Ohio.
Ohio.
Ohio? I'm like, you're going to college in Ohio. I mean, we have there's 7,000 schools between Princeton, New Jersey, and Oxford, and here we are. So,
Yeah.
but it was meant to be. I was meant to get familiar with the Cincinnati Bengals and
Yeah.
all that is Ohio. Where are we going to see you next? What is on the docket for Jordan Cornette? What does it look like?
Oh, wow. In the immediate, college football is on the horizon. So I'll be at a bunch of different college campuses doing live studio shows, previewing college football games. We start off this week at North Carolina, what they're calling week 0. There's actually college football this coming week. So I'll be there doing a studio show with a couple football guys. I'll be hosting that, albeit I was a basketball guy. But in my story, I've broadened my horizons, trying to do as much as I can to prove that I'm valuable. So I'm now a college football host as well. So I'll be doing that in the fall, which will be a lot of fun. And that's on the TV side. You can still hear me and my wife, Shay, my better half, the star of the show. We'll be doing radio during NFL Sundays from 1 to 5, kind of like a red zone show, giving you updates on all the football games as they come. We do that show year round. It was only supposed to be during football season, but people loved it, and the bosses loved it. And so we do that every Sunday year round, even if there's no football. We do that radio show on Sundays. So you can listen to a husband and wife, what is believed to be the first husband and wife in the history of national radio on sports at ESPN to host a show. So we've got that going.
That's impressive.
And then you'll see me pop up on like First Take, Get Up, some of these other shows hosting. You'll see my wife doing Sports Center. She's doing a ton of those. So we're trying to own as much real estate at ESPN as possible.
I absolutely love it. Well, I want to just land this by saying, keep being you. Keep being you, because you bring so much light, value, and I don't know, just wealth to the world. And I'm not talking about money. I just think you bring great richness to all the people that you touch. So keep glowing, keep growing. I appreciate this. Where can people find you? So if they want to connect or just get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, social media is probably the best way nowadays. You know how it is. Like we said, it's all about the Instagram posts. It's all about that content. On Twitter, it's just Jordan Cornette. You have to promise, if I tell you this, not to make fun of me for this one, Barbara. My wife does all the time. I had to have my name in my Instagram handle or whatever it is, and so Jordan Cornette was already taken. I had to put the Jordan Cornette, not because I think I'm somebody, but it's the Jordan Cornette on Instagram, as you well know. That was not by design. That was kind of forced to. So the Jordan Cornette on Instagram, Jordan Cornette on Twitter. Please follow. I love people. I love good people. That's why Barbara's in my life. I like to say real, recognized real. We view life the same way. We see the world the same, despite coming from completely different paths, but resilient, good spirits, people that love good vibes, that are trying to make an impact, that love to grind, love to tell their story, love people. In a lot of ways, it's a guy who's lingered in this conversation the whole time, and my older brother. A lot of that I see in you, Barbara. That's why we're good friends. And I'm honored, honestly, to be on your podcast here. I've known about it. I've listened to it before. And when you asked me to do it, I was honestly floored. And I'm excited that we were able to do this.
Well, I'm so happy that we got to connect, and we're connecting in real life at some point. Absolutely 100% sure. And it's because we are in the arena. We're in the game of life. We're doing the things. It's not always perfect, but man, I'm going to be able to say, I knew you when, Jordan. And that is like everything. Thank you so much. And, I'll let you get back to picking up your car. Jordan Cornette
this is not my house.
car
I
dealership.
promise you guys. I'm in a conference room here at the dealership, wait in the car, then go to work. So
Listen, you do whatever it takes. That is the takeaway here. You do whatever it takes to get the job done, even if it's while your car's getting serviced at one of the conference rooms. Do whatever it takes. Do the jam at 3:45.
Yeah.
Do calls from your car, from car dealerships. Show up, get it done, and do great at it. I want to land. The last thing, my big takeaway, Jordan, when you said that I treat everything like the Super Bowl, GMA, even if we were just at a small station in Chicago, that hit home. And that's what I see today is like, you're showing up, and if this, it's my small little podcast, but you treat it like the Super Bowl. And I appreciate there's a lot to be said about that. And if anybody can take that away, take it to heart, no matter what you're doing, leave it all out on the field, give your best effort. And I appreciate you so much. So I just wanted to know many, many takeaways. So thank you, Jordan. You have a great day. And I hope your car is all jazzy pants and ready for the road.
Barbara, I love you. It's good to be back with you, my friend.
Love you too, my friend. Hugs to the wife and the kids. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, Jordan. Thanks for listening to the Bearing It All podcast, where we explore what it means to live your best life. To stay connected, go to barbaramajeski.com and leave us your email. We'll keep you posted on all that it means to have the health, wealth, and happiness that you deserve.